Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sergio Arellano. I have many titles, but I'll use the one of President for the Arizona Latino Republican Association for the Tucson chapter. We're involved in the majority of Southern Arizona in getting out the vote and grassroots movements, primarily in majority minority areas like the Latino population. What we found is that our elderly are being taken advantage of, tias, tios, nanas, that don't know how to, and that's uncles, aunts, and grandmothers, to those who don't understand Spanish. But we found that, as Mr. Harvey said before, and we've worked with him on the grassroots movement, we've knocked on over 12,000 doors, we've participated in numerous campaigns and have attempted to help people to vote. What we're finding is that people are misrepresenting themselves on the ground. They're not, they're saying that they're election officials, part of the county or part of so-and-so, but when we check with the elections offices, they say, no, we never send any election officials out to pick up ballots. Additionally, a concern from a lot of the people is, there's no way to prove that my vote counted. How do I check? I'm 87, I'm 68, I'm 62. How do I check that my ballot even was taken to the polls, to the drop box? What's going on in these communities is a travesty because they're preying on these people. And as Sharon said, I hate to say that Sharon said, but he covered it all. And I just want to let you know that the Latino community is being taken advantage of because they're not being informed as to the right. They're not being informed that they can just put that ballot in their mailbox that's right in front of their house and someone will pick it up for free. They're telling them, hey, we'll pay the postage for you. Just give us the ballot. And that's not true because it's free. So I fully support this bill and thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Representative Larkin.
Madam Chair, is it Sergio?
Sergio Arellano.
I have a few concerns, questions. First, my district is 55% Latino, and so I think it's kind of unfair to say the Latino population, is being taken advantage of when our state is rather large, and I know my district really appreciates it. My district works all the time. And what I mean by that is that I have families that actually hold 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet. And so a lot of times what I have found is that those ballots often get left on the kitchen table or they don't get it in the mail fast enough. And they're very gracious that, I would go out there and pick up their ballot for them. They're very gracious that, some of my volunteers would give them that service. So I'm a little, I think, offended, by that, because I think it's an inaccurate statement. Furthermore,
Madam Chair, point of order.
Representative.
Sure, it's fair to characterize. None of us here, Madam Chair, Mr. Larkin, can speak to his experience. None of us. So you can say it's offensive, but you can't really say he can't characterize his experience. That's his experience. Unless you were there, you didn't just say it was offensive. What did you say after that?
Representative Larkin.
What did you say after you said it was offensive?
Well, so to summarize, I think it's a little unfair that he's speaking on behalf of the entire population, Latino population, when I have 55% of that population.
Madam Chair, Mr. Larkin, what I heard is his experience with the Latino community that he's involved with. This is that. But by that logic, none of us can speak for like anybody because we have various constituencies or just a micro part of the state. Maybe your experience is different. I think you should share that experience. But I'm not sure it's fair to challenge the reality of his experience. That's my point, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Madam
Representative
Chair,
Larkin.
Vice Chair, I'm just going to let this one go, but I would share my experience as well. So, we're swapping. I don't think, I would hope that Madam Chair and Sergio, that you weren't offended because I was just, swapping experiences with you, right? Having a conversation. So that was the intent right there, and I expressed my views as much as he has expressed his views here at the podium.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I do
Representative
have.
Larkin, did you have additional comments and questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Harvey came in and spoke on, he said he's involved with the Republican Party, and he shared his experiences with this committee today. And you have shared your experiences with this committee today. And I imagine there's other people out there that apparently want to share their experiences in collecting ballots and the fraud that isn't really reported hardly anywhere. So why hasn't it and same for the Democrat Party, I'm not saying anything here, but what I'm saying, if we have a room full of activists, if you will, that are closely, working with either party, including, the Republican Party right now, since that's who's been at the podium lately. Why hasn't that party raised any concerns to the elections authorities? I mean, I would think that when you want to walk into this committee and you want to propose legislation, you would walk in with a substantial amount of evidence showing why this is needed. And if we're gonna talk on all the experiences that everybody has, no one has really stepped up to the plate to provide that evidence to justify why we're running this piece of policy. So that's my question to Sergio here, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Madam Chair, can I answer?
please.
First of all, Representative Larkin, with all due respect, I'm a first-generation American, and I know the struggle in the Hispanic communities. My mom works 3 jobs, no father, absent father. I've lived in poverty, cockroaches. I mean, you name it, I was there growing up. And I still continue to live and die and fight for these people every single day because they're being oppressed and lied to by people from the Democratic Party, unfortunately, because those are the operatives out there picking up ballots. Additionally, we're out here because not only are we sharing our experience, but if I could bring that dear old Nana Tencha that I met, she'd be up here right now speaking to you and saying, this is my experience with fraud. Mijito, I don't know who I voted for. Some guy came up, picked up my ballot, and said, I'll take it for you. And I said, well, did you circle a bubble? Did you say how you want to vote? No. He just came over. He said, I'm with the elections office, and you have to turn in your ballot now. Is this your information? And he holds up an iPad with her name. I'm still addressing the floor.
Okay, finish your comment, and then you can have you have a point of order. Did you, or you?
I just want to make sure we're getting to the question, Madam Chair.
Is that your point of order? Okay, we're getting to it. Let him speak. Please continue.
I believe he made a statement, and he was just sharing stories, not asking me a question. That being said, when she doesn't know who she voted for, because some guy said, this is my iPad, is this you, Miss Tencha? And pulls out the iPad, and it has her name, her address, her age, her sex, and everything else. She says, oh, yes, oh my gosh, this is me. Well, we're here to pick up your ballot. Mm-hmm. She hands it over. Guess what? Who did she vote for? I don't know. She doesn't know. And that's the end of my statements.
Thank you, sir. Representative Montenegro?
Madam Chair, my question, which I asked why do you think the party, or why hasn't the party, your party, my party, and first off, all respect, like, I think the Latino vote is being oppressed. I completely agree with you. And, so I just want to let you know that. And this is why I'm here. And we just share different opinions on that, okay? But I feel you, okay? But Madam Chair, my question was, why hasn't the party, and again, either one, but why hasn't the party actually presented any type of evidence or if all these people have all these experiences, why hasn't those experiences come up through the legal system to the elections department to actually have substantial information to justify this bill?
Okay.
That's my question, is why hasn't that happened? Because we've been fighting this issue for a long time, and we continue to say, it's a need, it's a need, it's a need. I mean, prove it. I mean, that's what we
Okay.
do in our system, our government.
Great.
That's why we elected you guys to help us. We're
Through
the
the chair,
voice.
we've got to go through the chair.
I do apologize,
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
So it goes Madam Chair and then Representative Larkin.
Yes.
And then,
Sorry.
okay, no
Madam
problem.
Chair.
Okay, yep. And then did you want to?
Madam Chair, I mean, you can take a stab at it. I mean, but that's the question I'm not only asking you, but the committee here today.
Okay, then Representative Larkin, allow me, this fraud's already addressed in statute. It's already addressed. This is about, again, prohibiting the collection or harvesting of ballots because it will help deter people from committing ballot fraud, because it limits their opportunity of possessing somebody else's ballot. What's being asked here and what's being debated is the collection of the ballot. That's not good practice. That doesn't help the integrity of the process. That can lead to fraud. It can lead to misuse. But when you look here in statute, we have a handful of line items addressing fraud. So I just want to make sure we understand that, because I don't want to get in a big conversation about bringing up evidence and filing it, because it's really about the practice
Madam Chair,
of
I understand, and to your point, we're here representing communities,
yeah.
and to me, the community hasn't stepped up and said there's actually a problem to address. That's the problem I have.
Then, okay.
This is someone coming in with...
Madam Chair, that's what we're doing today at this hearing. We're stepping up and letting you know that there's a problem that has to be addressed.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
but there's actually no evidence that this is actually occurring.
Well, to that point, I think we've had lots of testimony. There is evidence that there's the collection of ballots. This bill addresses the collection of ballots. You keep referencing fraud. This bill doesn't reference fraud. This bill doesn't tackle that. This is about an activity that could potentially lead to that. So there's been ample evidence showing that the collection of ballots, whether it's one or two or 100, does happen. And that's important, because that's the language in the bill. The bill isn't about a fraud. That can be a consequence of potentially collecting ballots, because it opens up the opportunity for someone to have someone else's ballot. So it indirectly references that, but directly speaking, it's about the actual activity of collection. Representative Mesnard.
Chair, I want to, I'm not an attorney, and every time I say that, I add that I say
Just
that with
play
a
one
certain
here.
amount of pride. Yeah, right. With all due respect to my attorney friends out there, I challenge this notion that there is no evidence, because my understanding my understanding of the way the court system works is when a witness comes in and actually says something, that is evidence. You have witnesses coming in and saying that, and of course, when you're in the court of law, they're going to weigh all the evidence. All of it, that is all evidence. So I actually look at this as evidence. Now, you may not, or you may question the evidence, and that's perfectly right, and we shouldn't take everybody and what they said at face value. Certainly, we should drill into it. But for me, Madam Chair, and I'm sort of getting ahead of where we're at here because I got a couple more speakers, but I just will say that I don't know what evidence you're wanting looks like. A videotape of somebody actually, doing the deed, because, back in school, people cheated. We knew people cheated. I didn't have it on camera, but my teacher knew it happened, and so you did the best you could to crack down on this. And I think that this is an effort to do that.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, let's just say maybe you're correct. And why did we have a special committee here today when we clearly have elections on Thursday? I was trying to carry personal stuff.
Today is our elections meeting.
Today is the elections committee.
We have one, though, on Thursday.
Special one.
A special one. And then Mr. Clark, I don't know what his situation was. Couldn't appear, he came in sometime after I did. And then...
Representative Larkin, this has always been a regular scheduled meeting.
Okay. Very well. I just know, I just happen to know just how we can definitely line up the testimony in some of these hearings.
Representative Clark, this has been a legally posted meeting that has gone through the process, that has met all notifications, just like every other meeting. So I don't know what you're trying to infer, but everyone's had an opportunity to either register and to speak or come to testify or show up.
Well, and Madam Chair, there were people who didn't like the bill. They were earlier before you were here.
All right.
There were several folks that we allowed, and folks who've been here since the beginning saw that. So is a lot more on the list that favor the bill, so it's taking a little more time. But just so you know, before...
Then in that case, I'll just remain silent for a while.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent. Great.
Thank
That's
you,
okay.
Madam
Thank you, Representative Clerk. Representative Montenegro, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment for the guest,
You know what?
for the speaker?
Briefly.
Yes,
Madam
please.
Chair, Representative Mesnard alluded to this, but I think there is a lot to consider when it comes to evidence. First of all, I want to thank you for stepping up, Sergio.
Thank you, Representative.
You're also a combat veteran
Yes,
as
I
well,
am, sir.
who has served this country proudly. So I know that there are veterans who have showed up to testify, showing us that this is a very serious subject that people have bled and died for. For us to have the opportunity to vote and discuss this. So I think that robust conversation is necessary. And I want to thank you for bringing up information that personally I have seen as well. We all knock on doors. We all talk to different people, whether they're Hispanic, white, or of any other ethnicity. And they have mentioned how people do show up at their doors. And we are sent here to represent them and to do what they tell us, to represent their voice. So I have personally as well, I have knocked on doors where I have specifically been told that people do show up to let them know that they're there for the ballots. And you don't know if they work for the county, you don't know if they work for the state. All they know is that if it seems official, they must know, like the way you presented it. So I just wanted to add those 2 cents. I'll add more when I explain my vote, but thank you, Sergio.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative.
Yes, Representative Clark.
Questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. Sergio, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name.
Arellano,
Oregano?
or Arellano.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Madam Chair, Sergio, I'm just going to call you Sergio, if that's okay.
That's fine.
You were telling me is it your aunt who had someone come and take her ballot from her?
No, it's someone's aunt, not my aunt.
Someone's aunt. Okay, so it's here.
But I've had relatives say
Right. Okay, so someone you know who knows somebody. In that case, Madam Chair, Sergio, was her ballot open when they took it? Do you know?
Was her ballot open?
Yeah, I got the impression from the way you said it, Madam Chair, that that she gave them a ballot and it was still open. It had not been sealed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, Sergio, if we were to be able to put, say, a place on the outside of the ballot, maybe even across the seal, where the person who needs to give that ballot to someone else, say, for instance, as Representative Atondo mentioned, in rural areas, they can sign across it and says, I confirm that I'm giving this ballot to this person and I am knowledgeable that it is sealed. Do you think that would solve the problem?
I believe this bill addresses that because people can do it now with relatives and people living in the household. So I'm sure that's what it's there for now, right? It's there to combat that, but it's not happening.
Madam Chair,
Yes, to that point, Representative Weininger.
point, I don't think that solves it because you could it could be a certain party registration at the household and you're going to infer they're going to vote a certain way. Like we said, it's the envelopes are thin in some cases. They could just discard the whole ballot rather than tinkering with it. So I don't think that solves the problem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So your the things you've been hearing people talk about, have you ever witnessed this yourself?
Yes, I have.
You have witnessed somebody take a ballot and tamper with it?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Representative Montenegro.
I want to be careful that we're not here to cross-examine
Oh, yeah.
the people that are here to testify. I just, want to make sure that we're sticking to the...
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, Representative Mesnard said in response to Sergio about evidence, and he said we have people here to give us evidence. Well, we're not a court. You're right. No one's under oath. No one gets to be cross-examined. So you want it both ways. You want me to not ask him specific questions about things he's seen, but we want to just accept everything. This is my concern, Madam Chair. Here's the definition of evidence. Somebody goes to the county recorder and says, I saw this happen. County recorder says, we're going to track the number of times people come to us and say this, and we're going to report this forward. And maybe it goes to court or maybe it doesn't. We know the number of times, Madam Chair, that there are evidence of election fraud, the times there are voter fraud, and just registration fraud. All of them are minimal, but we can track them. And this, I think, is Representative Larkin's point. We don't track this. I'm not saying it never happens, but it seems to me the degree to which it happens is somewhat out of line with giving somebody a Class 6 felony. Class 6 felony includes aggravated assault. It includes tampering with witnesses. We're going to issue a Class 6 felony when many other things in the Elections Code are misdemeanors.
And to that point, many other things are also Class 5 felonies.
There are, Madam Chair, that is true. The question is, does this rise to a Class 5 or a Class 6 felony? I would suggest that it does not. Is there a problem? There could be. But in the year after year that we see this bill, the same bill, there's never any budge. There's never any attempt to take care of the folks who live in rural Arizona or who have problems, legitimate problems, getting their ballots to the polling place. And that doesn't always mean that that person is a member of the family. So, Madam Chair, I've finished my questions.
Thank you, Representative Clark. Representative Larkin.
Madam Chair, first off, I love this discussion going on, and this.
Yeah, is this a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So I just want to say I appreciate this discussion, and I only want to further it a little bit more. I'm just curious, and what is your involvement, your engagement level for within your community? Do you volunteer for one of the respective parties? Have you worked with an organization before on GOTV, anything like that? And the reason I ask, because as we move forward, I think that, we decide to put something like this in the law, that those organizations, there should be some responsibility that goes along with it, right? If you're going to be, or penalties, I should say, right? Higher penalties towards the organization.
It goes along.
Just to follow these rules that we've set these in place. So
what rules? It's a prohibition on collecting ballots.
I understand that, but I'm saying there should be, if we're going to put penalties on individuals for doing this and make it against the law, I just think it should carry forward in organizations that actually do voter outreach and making sure they're held to even a higher standard.
So for organizations who engage in ballot harvesting, you want to see a higher penalty, and if that is included in the bill, then you'll vote for it?
I didn't say that, ma'am.
Well, I'm just wondering why I would make an accommodation if you're not going to support it.
I'm having this discussion. We've ran this bill through the committee for several years now. So, it continues.
All right, excellent. I'm not sure that's necessarily a question that you can speak to, maybe a little bit challenging, but I guess generally, did you want to answer Representative Larkin's question about putting in a penalty for organizations who perhaps engage in ballot harvesting?
I'm not that you're, Madam Chair, not that you're speaking on behalf of the organization. I'm just curious if this knowledge comes from working within organizations, because it just goes back to my point that we need to be civically responsible, and especially, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and anybody who does get out the vote efforts to report these things. If this bill dies at any point in the process, then that might be something we want to consider moving forward. So that's why I asked.
Madam Chair, Representative Larkin, to answer your question, my knowledge not only comes from a particular organization, but just my involvement in the communities ever since I got back from the military and had nothing better to do than just fight for our people here once out of war. So that's where my knowledge comes from, sir.
Thank you so much. Representative
Thank you.
Clark?
Madam Chair, one last question. I'm sorry. Are you, I didn't fully hear your bio. Are you a volunteer, or are you paid by any campaign or a party?
So as a representative, I came here as a representative and president of the Tucson chapter of the Arizona Latino Republican Association, And no, it's unpaid.
You're not employed by the Republican Party.
Am I employed at this time by the Republican Party?
In the last year or now?
Yes, I've worked for the Republican Party.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam
Yes,
Chair,
Representative Montenegro.
I didn't know that we couldn't be involved in political parties and not show up to testify.
No, Madam Chair, Mr. Montenegro, that was not, I'm not trying to say that he can't testify, but I'm sure that if anybody employed by the Democratic Party didn't reveal their position, there'd be some upset people around the room. So I think that's why I asked, just all simple.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Representative.
I'd just like to
Walker.
thank Sergio for your testimony, and I guess I'm just curious. I think he's been up here for 3 to 4 times longer than every other person, so I guess I'm curious what is so unique about him and his testimony versus everybody else who gave a lot of evidence and stuff that warrants that, but I'll just let that sit there. You know.
Yes, Representative Larkin has
I
a
just
response.
got
to
this shortly after probably someone saw us on TV here. But I think the concern and
What, after someone saw us on TV?
well, we're being videotaped, so believe it or not, people actually watch it.
I know, but got what is what I was asking.
An article.
Oh, an article, okay.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, Representative, I'm just showing what's in the paper here, but it says RNC rounds out Southwest Hispanic field team. So I think, that's kind of sums up the concern, like maybe where Mr. Clark was going without knowing. Obviously, this came after the fact, but I mean, that's it. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, this is a voter suppression bill. I mean, and
Now, excuse me, Representative Larkin.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Representative
I think
Wingar.
I'm containing myself because if I said what it is, it would be impugning somebody on this panel, because I think the way he has been treated is not fair, and I'm going to leave it at that. But so I'm going to hold my tongue because I think it would be possibly get in trouble. But to me, it's pretty obvious.
Representative Larkin?
that's all.
That's,
Madam Chair.
all right. Sir, thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the body.